And good afternoon, producer Susan. Is it summer in State College, PA?
It's actually been quite lovely. Low humidity, 70-degree temperatures. It's like perfect. I wish I could stay like this all summer.
When are you going to mow your lawn the next time?
I actually mowed it on Monday.
Oh, well, good. All right. So you're all caught up. All right. And you want to hear what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, what's on the agenda?
All right. Well, first of all, it's the situation with Jersey Joe. It's news and perspective you won't hear on TV. And I actually have quite a bit of news and perspective that I know you didn't hear on TV, particularly with regard to the recently released job numbers. You've heard one side of the story. You're going to hear the other. Anyway, today's June the 12th. And our quote of the week is from author and writer Jamie Casap on why you should not ask kids what they want to be when they grow up. In our stupidest thing I've heard a week segment, we once again have two contenders. The first is about the results of a poll taken with regard to expanding Social Security benefits. And the second is about comments made on The View by one of the co-hosts regarding Caitlin Clark's popularity. You know who Caitlin Clark is, right?
Yep. Yep. She is the greatest basketball player of all men and women in the NCAA.
Well, not according to The View, she isn't. So we'll tell you what The View thinks about Caitlin Clark. We'll tell you what the homeless people in Portland are doing with cases of free water provided to them by the city of Portland. Hint, they aren't drinking or bathing with it. Now we're supposed to all be concerned with our carbon footprint, right? Our CO2.
Yep. Yep.
Well, we'll tell you about First Lady Dr. Jill Biden's carbon footprint last week, how much she added to the atmosphere, and
Mhm.
some totally unnecessary travel on private jets. We'll also tell you what now we all know what lithium is used for. Why it's so precious?
Yep. It's used in batteries like cell phone batteries and car batteries.
EV batteries, and
Or not car batteries, but yeah, EV batteries.
where does most of our lithium come from these days?
Not in this country.
China. Well, we're
Yep.
going to tell you about where a huge mineral lithium deposit has been discovered in this country and the dilemma it's going to create for one of the state legislatures. As I mentioned at the beginning, the Bureau of Labor Statistics came out last week with a job report, 270, and everybody's gaga, raving. You know, the media is just, slobbering all over what a great jobs report it was. The White House is strutting around, taking credit. We're going to tell you why that job number is not as good as everybody wants you to believe it was. We'll also tell you about a provision of the tax code regarding the implications of a student loan. You know, Biden keeps talking about, well, we're giving, these student loans, we're forgiving those student loans. Well, we're going to tell you about a provision of the tax code that may be a shock to some of these people who are getting these loan forgivenesses. And we'll tell you how many stores and restaurants have closed in this country in just the first 5 months of the year. And the number might shock you. And last but not least, our taxpayer relief shot comes to us from Lufkin, Texas, where a man who had been released from prison just a few hours earlier dies while attempting to carjack a vehicle containing the wife and baby daughter of the vehicle's owner. Now, what do we say about people in Texas?
A lot of them carry guns.
Carry guns. So you're a prisoner who's just been released, and the first thing you do is try to carjack a pickup truck with a.
Oh, definitely. I feel I'm definitely stereotyping, but I bet more pickup trucks than not have guns in them.
Well, in this case, the owner was around the back of the truck, and this guy jumps into the truck and tries to drive off with the guy's wife and baby daughter inside. You can figure out how that one ended.
Yeah.
All right. So you probably never heard of Jamie Casap, but you can look him up.
Nope.
It's CASAP. He's a writer, author. He's also CEO of his own company. But I thought this was just a great observation. And he said, this is a quote, "Don't ask kids what they want to be when they grow up, but instead ask what problems do they want to solve. This changes the conversation to who do I want to work for to what do I need to learn to be able to do that." Isn't that
Yeah.
just a great
Interesting
observation?
perspective. Yeah, absolutely.
So you ask somebody, like if you had a young niece, what problems would you like to solve when you grow up? And and
Yeah.
that changes their whole focus. Do you have any young nieces or nephews who
I,
are
I
still?
do. I do.
I think that's just a great question. When you grow up, what problems in this world would you like to work on solving? I think that's just a really great way to focus their energy. And so I just thought it was a great quote. So again, Jamie Casap, don't ask kids what they want to be when they grow up, but instead ask problems they want to solve. I just think that's just a kind of a light bulb went on. All right. So here, two things, stupidest thing I've heard all week. Once again, two contenders. Here is the most stupidest poll I've ever heard of. Somebody went out, this is a liberal Facebook site, Americans for Tax Fairness, and they went out and they actually took a poll and they asked the questions, do you support expanding Social Security benefits and having those expanded benefits paid for by increasing taxes on the wealthiest Americans? Well, duh. What do you think they're going to answer?
Of course they're going to say yes.
It's like saying, would you like to go out and have dinner at a nice restaurant and have the people sitting at the next table pay for it?
Yeah.
I mean, that has got to be the stupidest poll I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
Well, would you support expanding Social Security benefits and having those expanded benefits paid for by taxing the wealthiest Americans?
Yeah.
Absolutely the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. So let's move on to Caitlin Clark, who's an amazing basketball. I've got a list of her accomplishments, which I can read off. But have you ever seen The View?
Yes. Yep.
I try not to watch it, and you know who Sunny Hostin is, right?
Yep. Yep.
Well, she has dismissed Caitlin Clark's achievements during the May 22nd segment um, because she attributes her popularity to, quote, white privilege. She's tall, pretty, straight, and white, and that's why she's so popular.
How about the fact that she's an amazing athlete who's better than not only all of the other women in the NCAA, but all of the men in the NCAA?
Let me read you a partial list of her achievements. She's the all-time leading scorer, achieved most 30-point games by any man or woman in Division I
Man
athletics.
or woman.
Or one, man or woman.
Yes.
Became the Big Ten's all-time leader in assists. Holds the Big Ten, broke the Big Ten Player of the Week conference record. Division I women's scoring leader, career scoring leader, single game scoring record, all-time leader in points, Big Ten career record for three-pointers, NCAA Division I men's and women's scoring leader. She's the scoring leader for both NCAA men and women scoring leader record.
Men and women scoring.
And here's another one. Another men and women achieved most three-pointers in a single season by any male or female Division I player. And the list goes on and on. It became on and on and on and on.
She is by far one of the greatest athletes of this decade, and she is such an amazing role model for young women of any color.
Yes. So, but Sunny Hostin had to find a way to knock her down, saying her popularity is attributable to she's pretty, tall, white, and there's this thing called tall privilege. I just can't get over how
basketball players typically are tall.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, let's be real. You're not going to have a 4 foot something basketball player be super successful.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, but she dismissed her, and this during the May 22nd segment of The View, because she's white, pretty, and straight. And tall.
I'm sorry, she is just an amazing athlete. She is better than even the male athletes in that sport, as you just read off all those stats.
So between the poll asking, would you like to have your benefits expanded and paid for by somebody else, or knocking down Caitlin Clark because she's tall, white, and pretty and straight, which of those is the stupidest thing?
You know, I've heard similar comments by other commentators regarding Caitlin Clark, and I think that I think they're all just jealous.
Yeah.
And I shake my head every time I hear something negative about Caitlin Clark.
So which is the stupidest?
I don't know. This because they're such different topics. They're I don't know.
Maybe they're both. So this is the first week we've got two incredibly stupid things.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to hear what the listeners have to say.
All right. All right. So listeners, there's your challenge. Is it trying to knock down Caitlin Clark because she's tall, white, straight, and pretty? Or is it asking people or holding a poll to see if people would like to have their Social Security benefits expanded if somebody else was paying for it? And you tell me which is the stupidest one of those two things. So anyway, let's move on to this is perspective you won't hear on TV. So I don't know if you heard about the Bureau of Labor Statistics monthly jobs report.
Mm-hmm.
And it came in at 272,000, and it was, I think, only predicted to be 190. And everybody was gaga. You know, the White House was Jean-Pierre, what's her name, was, he's bragging about it, and all the network, CBC, ABC, NBC, were all gaga about how it's an incredible beat. It's one of the best jobs report we've had in 9 months. Well, here's what's behind those numbers. And when you hear what's behind those numbers, it really not only wasn't all that good news, it's actually some pretty bad news. Remember, this is a net of 272,000. Well, let me tell you how we got to a net of 272,000. People moving to a part-time, accepting part-time jobs increased by 409,000 to 22 million people are now working a part-time job. People working full-time had a 625,000 decline. So 625,000 people who had a full-time job aren't working a full-time job anymore. The workforce participation rate dropped to 62.5%, meaning we have fewer working age people working this month than the month before. Total employment, which is consistent, is down by 408,000. So total employment actually fell by 500,000 people. The unemployment rate ticked up by 157,000 people because every month more and more people turn 18 and join the workforce. So the baseline employment rate ticked up from 3.9% to 4%. The number of people not in the labor force, people have given up, increased by 433,000. But here's the real shocker. The Labor Department's data from May also showed that while the number of native-born workers, native-born job holders dropped by 300,000 versus a year ago to 130 million, the number of foreign-born workers rose by 637,000 from last year to 31 million as of last month. So to summarize, the number of full-time jobs is falling. The number of part-time jobs is increasing dramatically, and foreign-born workers are replacing native-born workers by a 2-to-1 margin, meaning that 2 foreign-born workers are being hired for every 1 native-born worker who lost his or her job. Do you think that was a good jobs report?
No, not really. And with all of this, the immigration discussions that have been happening in the news recently, the majority of these immigrants that are coming to America are coming for a better life. They, there's a lot of discussion in the news recently about all the benefits that we're paying these people that are coming into our country, but most of them want to work. They want to come here and work. So I'm not surprised by that statistic. And I think, the job creation, I think people also need to realize the difference between job creations and people that are actually employed, because everywhere in my town, there's help wanted signs everywhere.
Yep.
And I have to wonder, how are people paying their bills when nobody's working?
Yeah. And again, 600,000 people left, whether they got laid off or resigned, but 625,000 people who had a full-time job don't have them. That was the change from May. By the way, and here's something else. The landscaping companies that service the houses on my street, they all have their lawns mowed and fertilized. I used to see a lot of college kids, working on these landscaping jobs in the summer. It wasn't 100%, but it might have been 30% college kids, driving these big zero-turn mowers. Now it is literally all immigrant labor. So, and what I suspect,
they want to work. They came to this country for a better life, and they want to work for their
better
life.
And they're willing to work for a cheaper rate than the college kids. So, so that's what's happening. All right.
But college kids aside, immigrants aside, I want to know, how are people paying their bills? And, for a company to come in and have 100 jobs available, well, you created 100 jobs, but how many of those 100 jobs are you actually filling?
I believe nationwide, the number of open unfilled jobs is 8.2 million open unfilled jobs.
Yeah.
8.2 million. And by the way, we're going to talk another segment here. We're going to talk about the number of store closures. So we're going to tell you what's happening that I think ties into the labor number. In fact, I might jump to that and come back to the First Lady.
Sure.
So let's talk about store closures. So if you were skeptical of all the claims about our alleged booming economy, your skepticism might be well-founded. Now, in just the first 5 months of this year, again, just through the end of May, Here's a list of more than 3,200 retail establishments, not including restaurants, which I'll get to in a minute, that have closed so far this year. Family Dollar Store, 620 store closures. Route 21, I have no idea what Route 21 is.
That's a clothing store for young adults.
They've closed 543 stores. The 99-cent stores, 371. CVS Pharmacy closed 315. 7-Eleven's 272 closed. Rite Aid 165. Express 105. Walgreens Boots Alliance 77. Macy's 51. The Body Shop 51. Soft Surroundings. Sam Ash Music. Sleep Number. Burlington Stores. Foot Locker, Carter's, Foxtrot, Dom's Kitchen and Market, Abercrombie and Fitch, Outdoor Voices, Signet Jewelers, Big Lots, Ashley's, Dollar General, Allbirds. I have no idea what Allbirds is. American Freight, Best Buy, Mainline Pharmacy, Element, Couche-Tard, and Ross Stores. That's 3,200 retail stores. Now, if you add in restaurant closures like Red Lobster, 99 location, Rubio's, 50 locations, Cracker Barrel, TGI Fridays, Denny's, Outback Steakhouse, Boston Market, and hundreds of smaller restaurants, the list of retail restaurant closures is fast approaching almost 200 per week or 800 per month. And for every one of those stores that close, you're talking a loss of, of full-time jobs, because they all play, even the small stores might have if you look at the staff of even a small store, 15 people to cover a 6 or 7 day, right? I mean, how many people work in a Macy's to cover, if Macy's open 7 days a week, you have 100 people working in Macy's?
Yeah.
So, and those are all full-time jobs. So 3,200 stores, even at an average of 20 people per store would be over 6,000 jobs.
Yeah, and that list that you read off, those are primarily, chains or franchises. That's not counting any of all of the mom and pop shops.
Yeah, the independents, right? They close up
across the country because they just can't afford to stay open.
Yep.
Or they don't have labor.
They don't, or they can't get labor, right?
I mean, our favorite local pizza dive, they're only open Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays now because they can't get help the rest of the week.
Yep. So so all is not as rosy as the administration and the media would have you believe. All right, so let's move on to carbon footprints, right? We're all supposed to be driving electric vehicles and turning up our air conditioning and.
Which, are they really that good on our carbon footprint?
Well,
another discussion. Discussion.
No, we won't go there today. We'll go there a different day. So anyway, President Biden was in France last week, right?
Yes.
Well, for whatever reason, First Lady Dr. Jill Biden didn't go with him on Air Force One because she was attending Hunter Biden's trial. Well, she then followed 2 days later for there was some, big state dinner, husband and wives. So she flies to France separately on a government jet to attend the official dinner with her husband. And then she gets back on a government jet on last Thursday to fly back to Washington to sit in the back of the courtroom at Hunter Biden's trial in Delaware. Now, Hunter Biden is not her son. Hunter Biden is her stepson. So she flies all the way back to sit in the back of the courtroom. She's not a witness. She's just sitting in the back of the courtroom as a spectator. And then Friday, after the trial ended for the week, and the jury went to deliberation, she got back on a private jet, government jet, and flew back to Paris to be with her husband. So, so that's 3 trips with her and her Secret Service entourage back and forth. Washington to Paris, Paris to Washington, Washington back to Paris. 3 trips in a private government jet.
And of course, even if she flies back on Air Force One, that jet still needs to come back to America.
But at least she's coming. At least the jet was going to fly anyway, because President Biden is going to be on the jet.
Yeah.
And had she gone with him on the initial trip, that would have been no extra carbon. But the fact that she said, I'll come along 2 days after because I want to sit in the back of the courtroom. To me, that was completely unnecessary because she wasn't.
She should have made some decisions. I'm either going to attend this conference with my husband or I'm going to sit in the galley and support my stepson. One or the other.
Right. But her decision to sit in the back of the courtroom resulted in 3 transatlantic trips on a private jet for the First Lady. So please don't talk to me about carbon footprints. All right. So lithium, a rare, expensive, uh,
Mhm.
strategic commodity, right? We need it for
Yep.
every battery.
Yeah.
Um, they have a study out of University of Pittsburgh has showed they have discovered a significant concentration of the rare earth mineral lithium in the wastewater used to, wait for it, frack water from gas wells in Pennsylvania.
Mm.
Now, I believe a couple of years ago, didn't the state of Pennsylvania outlaw fracking?
It's been more than a couple of years. It's been pretty close to a decade that we've not been allowed to frack in Pennsylvania, or it's been very difficult to frack in Pennsylvania.
So here's the dilemma for the Pennsylvania state legislature. Apparently, there's tons of lithium deep underground. And again, when you talk about fracking takes place at 10,000 feet below ground level.
Yep.
And the way they're getting it out basically is in solution, you basically dissolve it and it comes up with the wastewater. So
Mhm.
you're the state legislature, you've got tons and tons of a strategic mineral 10,000 feet below, and the only way to get it out is by fracking. So you're the state legislature. What do? Do you allow fracking, or do you just let that incredibly valuable, which by the way would generate all sorts of tax revenues and everything else, or
Mhm.
do you
And
stick
jobs,
and jobs?
jobs.
So jobs and tax revenues. So do you forego jobs and tax revenues just to stand by your fracking ban, or do you have such
Yeah,
a
no, I think I foresee that they're gonna do a 180 on this.
yeah, if they're smart. And by the way, fracking fracking fluid, by the way, is 99% sand and water and some other stuff like
Mhm.
ascorbic acid, which sounds scary, but if you
Which,
drink
by the
it,
way, that's like lemon juice.
yeah, or if you drink it, if you drink a can of Diet Coke, there's nothing in in fracking that isn't you won't find in it. Again, it's 99% sand and water, and the other 1%, you can actually drink fracking fluid and it won't hurt you.
Yeah, look at your bottle of juice or your bottle of soda. I bet ascorbic acid is in that drink
Yeah,
that you're
yes,
drinking.
ascorbic acid is in your Diet Coke, so um, that's more of a virtue signaling thing than
Mhm.
anything else. So yeah, so Pennsylvania is rich in lithium, except it's too far down to get it by mining. So the only way you can get it out is by fracking. So we'll see what happens in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, interesting developments.
All right. Now, did you? Not a lot of people don't know this, but do you know if a loan is forgiven, the lender is supposed to issue you a 1099-C?
99. Yep.
Right, because that's basically income. Because you were given money
Hmm.
that you didn't have to pay back. Well, if somebody gives you money and say you don't have to pay it back, that's a payment. That's income.
Hmm.
Um, so here's the question. Uh, Biden is forgiving billions and billions of dollars of student loan debt to select groups. Do you think that the Biden administration is going to be issuing Form 1099-Cs to those?
I highly doubt that they're actually going to be doing this, but they should be doing this.
They should. And so, but if not, why not? If you don't think they will, why won't they?
I don't know.
I mean, if I'm the government, I'm going to forgive you 40,000 of debt. Don't you think the least you could do is pay the taxes on that 40,000?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a $40,000 college grant. We're gonna gift you 40,000 to go to college with. Well, if they had gifted you the money, you would have had to pay tax on that $40,000 gift. So if I forgive the loan, it's the same as a $40,000 gift. Why shouldn't it be taxable income?
Mhm. My other, and we've talked about this before too, but we need to remind people that this forgiveness, this loan forgiveness, debt forgiveness, it just doesn't go away. It still needs to be paid. And guess who's paying that?
Everybody, all the other taxpayers in this country.
Taxpayers. We are paying that.
Yes,
So
you're
it just
paying for
doesn't
it, I'm paying for
disappear.
it, your plumber's paying for it, the guy who mows your lawn is paying for it. Uh,
Yeah.
the guy who changes the oil in your car is paying for it. So that's who's paying for it. Okay, how much time we got left?
Not about 10 minutes.
I had one more thing. There's a new, I had it in here and then I dropped it out. There's a new animal tranquilizer that's been, you've all heard about Special K, right? Ketamine.
Yep. Yeah. Ketamine. Yeah.
There's a new drugs out. Let me see if I can find it. That has been replacing ketamine, and it's killing people. It is way more powerful Then ketamine. I'm trying to come up with the name of it because I had it in my notes and then I dropped it out. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, you gotta kind of, here we go. Animal tranquilizers. You bring this up. A new tranquilizer is called meditopamidine. Has been linked to recent, that's MEDETOMIDINE, overdose deaths in Midwest and Northeast, how street drugs are becoming deadly, more substances are mixed with illicit fentanyl. Federal government last year about the spread of animal tranquilizers, xylazine or trank, it's called trank on the street, can lower blood pressure to dangerous levels, cause blackouts, and damage skin severely enough. Ready for this? It can damage the skin of the user severely enough to require amputations.
Wow.
So, and metitopamidine is thought to be even more potent. It first appeared in Maryland as early as 2 years ago, and similar to the path of other drugs, is starting to move west. So Michigan officials said Thursday it was found on 3 people who died of overdoses in unrelated cases. Philadelphia and Pittsburgh officials last month reported it showed up in their cities, and Chicago health officials are also linked to increase in overdoses. So I know you work for the university out there. You might want to, if your university health officials are not aware of this new drug and any potential antidotes, but it's already in Pennsylvania. Again, MEDETOMIDINE.
And I've heard of xylazine, and by the way, that's spelled with an XY, XYLA.
XY, right? Xylazine or trank.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Well, so this is something they might want to be aware of. Anyway, let's move on to taxpayer relief shots. And why do we call them taxpayer relief shot? Well, I'll let the sheriff of Santa Rosa County, Florida, explain them to you. Here we go. Whoop, lost them. Here we go.
Somebody's breaking in your house, you're more than welcome to shoot them in Santa Rosa County. We prefer that you do, actually. Hopefully, you'll save the taxpayers money.
And again, because what he's saying, and we've talked about this before, that if a thug gets arrested, it's $200,000 for the trial and $80,000 a year to keep him in jail. So a 10-year sentence following a jury trial is $1 million. And here's Sheriff Grady Judd.
But we have received information on social media that some of the criminals were going to take their criminal conduct into the neighborhoods. I would tell them, if you value your life, you probably shouldn't do that in Polk County, because the people of Polk County like guns. They have guns. I encourage them to own guns, and they're going to be in their homes tonight with their guns loaded. And if you try to break into their homes to steal, to set fires, I'm highly recommending they blow you back out of the house with their guns.
All right, so that's another reason why not to mess around with people of Polk County or Santa Rosa, Florida. But
I'd say anywhere in Florida or Texas.
Florida, Texas, yeah, absolutely don't go to Florida, Texas. So, but let's go to Texas, where this guy who gets released from the jail in the morning doesn't even make it till lunchtime before he decides to carjack this guy's pickup truck with his wife and baby daughter inside. Here we go.
After an alleged carjack that turned fatal.
Here we go.
Family is safe after an alleged carjack that turned fatal. Lufkin police responded to a shooting last night around 9 o'clock. Lieutenant Mike Shirley says 10 officers arrived at a business near East Lufkin Avenue and Ridge Street. After arriving at the scene, he says officers found
The suspect, who was still on scene, was on the ground.
Lieutenant Shirley says the business owner left his truck running as he stepped out to attach a trailer, leaving his wife and 4-month-old daughter inside the vehicle. Moments later, 47-year-old Jarvis Houston was seen walking down the street when he approached the truck, attempting to drive away with it. The business owner
Confronted the suspect, even offered to let him take a different vehicle, since his wife and child were in that vehicle. And subject persisted in wanting to take that vehicle.
Officials discovered Houston was released just an hour before from the Angelina County Jail on charges of assault and family violence. Shirley says both men got into a physical fight after the owner grabbed a 9mm handgun from his truck.
Struggle continued, and the subject was eventually shot.
Houston was taken to a nearby hospital and was pronounced dead at 9:17. Shirley explains the security surveillance matched the owner's statement leading up to the shooting, and no charges are filed against him. Police say it was self-defense.
It saved his life and the lives of his wife and child possibly, so.
However, Shirley says the case remains under investigation and must be presented to the Angelina County District Attorney for review.
To be able to be justified in using deadly forces, they have to be in fear of their life or the life of someone else.
Mariela Gonzalez, KTRE, East Texas News 9.
So let me close. So what'd you think of that one?
Yeah, I mean, again, Texas, many people in Texas carry guns. Not only was he defending himself, his property, but also his wife and his child.
Yep. And you know, I spent quite a bit of time in Texas, and I've been in a lot of pickup trucks in Texas. And I always ask, I've yet to be in a pickup truck in Texas where there wasn't at least one gun in the pickup truck. I'm in all seriousness, I've probably been in 50 pickup trucks in Texas in the past 10 years. I've never been in a pickup truck in Texas that didn't have at least one gun in it.
Yeah.
So I think we can rack this up to stupid criminals. So
Yeah.
all right. Well, producer Susan, anything you want to add before we sign off here for the?
Well, Father's Day is coming up, Jerzee Joe. Are you gonna be doing Father Day activities this weekend?
You know, I don't know. I've got a daughter that might come visit me. If she does, I'm hoping she brings me some cigars. But nothing special. But you know, we'll play it by ear if she makes it here. Other than that, if you've got nothing else, I want to thank everybody who listened to the podcast for giving up 30 minutes out of your busy day to listen to me ramble on about things that I find of interest and importance. And I hope you found those topics as interesting and important as I did. And if so, I hope you continue to listen to the podcast in the weeks and months to come. If you want to see some materials and story links you heard me talk about today, you can find them on the Jerzee Joe website at jerzeejoe.com. Just remember to spell Jerzee, J-E-R-Z as in zebra, E-E. So J-E-R-Z-E-E, jerzeejoe.com. If you want to send me an email with a question, comment, or suggested topic, you can do that by sending me an email to joe@jerzeejoe.com. And other than that, producer Susan, unless you have something else to add, I'll sign off and talk to you next week.
Enjoy this beautiful weather.
You too. You take care of yourself. Bye-bye.